Hi. I've got the candle on because I've been smoking a very nice Monte Cristo cigar and drinking whiskey and thinking about my idiotic conundrum. So the title of this video is Living in the Dark. We are all in the dark. Plato's cave without the sun. And my chief complaint against science, against religion, and against mysticism is that they don't see the dark. They think they see light. They think they're enlightened. They think they have some kind of explanation. And I'm trying to... I've got a question without an answer. And it feels like I'm the very, very few people who see this, who see that we are in the dark. And I'm thinking about a line from a song by David Bowie. Knowledge comes with death's release. And this isn't anything to do with suicide or wanting to die or anything like that. I don't want to die. I want to live forever. I know I won't. But it's a puzzle, because there seems something wrong, something utterly scandalous, in fact, about the fact that I will die never knowing why I'm here. And my investigation, if you can call it that, has kind of switched from trying to answer the question to trying to accommodate myself to the possibility, to the real possibility, in fact the almost certainty, that I cannot and never will answer that question. Why I am here. Why I am here rather than someone like me who isn't me. And I just made this video at the spur of the moment. I've been listening to Roixop. What else is there? And what have I got going for me? I've been playing chess at chess.com to try to take my mind off this. But all my other interests, and they are real interests, photography, music, they seem like distractions. They seem like just ways of passing the time, when I should be focusing all my energy on the question. How can I put it? It's wrong. It is just plain wrong that we should just not be able to know why we are here. And I'm trying to figure out what is the best way to live when you have that question. When that question seems the most important thing in the world. More important than, I don't know, the threat of annihilation, climate change, nuclear war, COVID, those don't really bother me at all. Likewise, the desire that so many people have to be famous or recognized or to have money. I don't have any of those things. I have my computers and this webcam and my cigars and my chess. I'm not very good at chess, really. I played more games in the last week than I have in my entire life. I mean live games. I used to play against a computer, now I play against actual people. People that I don't know, totally anonymous. It's exciting. I've had some fantastic chess games. But it's a distraction. I realise that. And I mean, there are people who live their lives for chess. And I'm not just talking about international masters and grandmasters, but just people who are totally enthusiastic about it. For good reason, because it's an incredibly good game. But it's just a distraction. I wanted to write a book that people would want to read, and I've written several books in the last few years, which not a lot of people wanted to read for some reason. That doesn't bother me. What bothers me is that the only person who seemed to understand what my question was someone who held views that I couldn't possibly accommodate. Views about male sexualism. I have 2 sisters, 3 daughters. My mother had 5 sisters, 6 sisters, large family. So women have made a big part in my life. And I have great, great respect for women. That's just a statement of fact. But I am proud to be a man. I'm glad to be a man. And being a man for me isn't about sex. It's about fate, the genetic lottery. This is my fate. And it's my fate to be confronted with this question, to see it as clearly as anyone can see anything. So what to do? I look at the world of philosophy and I see people who are very, very busy, very clever people, who busy themselves with lots and lots of questions. But the big question, the one big question, or maybe the 2 big questions, they barely touch at all. The question why there is anything at all, well, that's a very, very big question, and it has been discussed. Derek Parfit is one philosopher who's died recently, who made his own contribution to this in terms of the best explanation, which is preposterous. It's utterly preposterous. He's just one example of a clever idiot. And most academic philosophers are clever idiots because they've completely abandoned the calling of philosophy, as I see it. I wrote in my doctoral thesis that any theory, quote unquote, that leaves questions unanswered cannot be an adequate theory. Certainly a theory that leaves the big questions unanswered. It's just a waste of time. It's a complete waste of time, mental energy. So I come back to that same point. I said in previous videos, I'm not going to repeat the argument that God couldn't explain why I'm here, and the Big Bang or string theory or any of the other clever theories that physicists put forward can't explain why I'm here. In fact, nothing that doesn't begin with I can explain why I'm here. Which doesn't mean that I am somehow bigger than the universe or that I cannot possibly die or anything like that. On my view of things, I could die in the next second. And you would never know. I could cease to be I. Jeffrey Klempner would continue to exist and would continue to be making this video. But I wouldn't be that person. The existence or the non-existence of I has no causal antecedents. It could not have been created, intended, produced by anything that is not I. Which is incredible. It's the conundrum. And there has to be a point where you, I suppose, where you recognize that you will always be in the dark. And this candle is ironic, I suppose you could say. I like staring at light. I like sunlight. There's something comforting, soothing, distracting about physical light. But physical light isn't in question. Because I'm talking about knowledge. I'm talking about understanding my place in the universe. And there seems to be no possibility of doing that. So my question isn't, what is the answer? My question is how to live in the face of that, recognizing that fact. And of course I can spend my time, my philosophical time, so rapping about it, telling the world about it, trying to get people to see. And that's a puzzle as well. Why so few people see? I'm not the only person, absolutely not. Thomas Nagel, who is a very well known and highly praised philosopher, for good reason, has written a number of books And in his book, The View from Nowhere, he poses the question, what does it mean to say, I am Thomas Nagel? And he comes up with an answer that, to me, is totally unsatisfactory, which is that I refers to some universal I, that is Thomas Nagel and Jeffrey Klempner and Thomas Trump and every other human being who's ever existed. And it seems just possible, because I'm totally familiar with the phenomenon of forgetfulness, it seems possible that I am all these people. One of the things that convinces me of that possibility is dreaming. I dream every night. I wake up from my dreams, and most often I've completely forgotten what I was dreaming about the very moment I woke up. And even when I remember one particular dream, there are so many other dreams that I forget. So, not knowing, forgetfulness, seems to be a possible explanation. But it's just a theory. And I've also said that theories are just stories. They're just something we make up. If such and such, then so and so. And the pre-Socratic philosopher Xenophanes pointed out the huge fallacy of thinking that a theory could be true. A theory is just a theory. A theory is just some story that we've made up. And I'm not convinced by any theory. So, to me, knowledge cannot be hypothetical. It's got to be absolute. And the metaphysicians of the 19th century totally understood this. I'm talking about people like F.H. Bradley, 19th and 20th century. And Kant says in the Critique of Pure Reason, I think in the preface or introduction, I can't remember which, in this investigation, I will not make any hypotheses, because hypotheses are contraband. They're not to be put up for sale even at the lowest price, but confiscated immediately upon detection. Well, he was a fan of Newton, who also said, I make no hypotheses. But of course that's not true. Of course Newton made hypotheses. He came up with a very interesting and powerful explanation of the forces that govern the universe. Gravity, in particular. And for him it wasn't a hypothesis. It was, I don't know what. He was so certain that he was right. And then along came relativity and all the rest. He was wrong. I mean, he was right on one level, but wrong on many other levels. He was making a hypothesis. But what Kant meant, Immanuel Kant, author of Critique of Pure Reason, was that real knowledge, knowledge of ultimate facts, cannot be hypothetical. It cannot be a theory. It has to be certain. And Hegel understood that totally. But Hegel's solution is, like many philosophers to say that this intuition, this sense that I am something more than Jeffrey Klempner, is somehow a fallacy. And many, many philosophers, the majority, would say that. I know that that's not true. I know it's not true because I might not have existed, but someone exactly like me might have existed in my place. I know that materialism is an absurd theory. It was absurd 2,500 years ago. And all the versions of materialism that have existed since then have not improved on the original theory put forward by the atomists. So that leaves me with a complete and utter sense of puzzlement. The world doesn't add up. Things do not add up. And that's what I mean by being in the dark. We are in the dark. We don't know. We cannot know. It seems to me we cannot know. I mean, I can't rule out the possibility of something that I've just never conceived, never thought of. It can't be any of the things that are currently discussed or believed. It can't be any physical theory. It can't be the God theory. And it is just, belief in God is a theory. I'm not saying belief in God is absurd. It's inadequate. It doesn't explain the most important thing. I feel like sort of shouting out, why can't you see? But you're too busy living your life. You have lots of things that interest you. You're interested in philosophy, otherwise you wouldn't be watching this video. And you're probably thinking to yourself, I'm not really bothered about that. I'm interested in lots of things. Well, I'm interested in lots of things as well. You know, this isn't just my only obsession. I have other things that interest me, that distract me. But this is the most important thing. And religion is not the answer, nor is science, nor is mysticism. So, why even bother to make this video? It's on the spur of the moment. It's, what can you say? Like, sometimes you've just got to say what's on your mind. And this is what's on my mind. And it would be great, it would be wonderful if I could get some indication from someone that they got this, that they understood this, that they could see why the existence of I is such a mystery. I mean, solipsism is not even on the table. The problem is the same for you as it is for me. And you have to answer that for yourself. And when I talk about myself, I'm basically saying this is how have to think about yourself. Logically, you ought not to exist. Logically, I ought not to exist. Something that has no possible explanation ought not to exist, but it does. And that's just simple, plain fact. You know you exist. Descartes said as much. That's the most certain thing. The most certain thing in the whole universe is that I exist. But what is uncertain, what is completely unknown, is why I exist. How it came about. I mean, even what it means to say that I exist. And Descartes put forward a theory about a soul substance that doesn't answer that question. Or maybe it does, maybe you think it does. What kind of thing must a soul be in order to explain this? I don't think it can be any kind of a thing at all. The whole idea the soul is a thing is a mistake. The whole idea that there is a soul substance is a mistake. So I guess this is going to be not a very long video, because what else is there to say? I would love to get an answer from someone, something that I hadn't thought of in 40 years of philosophizing, or more than 40 years of philosophizing. I mean, this is a question that I started thinking about in 1977, 8, and I come up with various approaches, none of which is adequate. And so here I am now. And I've almost lived my 70 years and 10. It doesn't really matter whether I, live another 10 years, 20 years, whatever. It's not going to make any difference. But the one thing that I can sort of console myself with is the thought that at least I can see that it's dark. At least I see the question. That's something. It's not nothing. I'm not going to say any more today. I'm going to go back, probably play some more games of chess, and think about what to have for dinner, that kind of thing. Practical things, human things. And if I have a new thought about this, I will make a video. But until then, that's all for today. Goodbye.